response or movement is tropism. Tropism is a directional bending movement in shoot or root system in response to a unilateral stimulus. When the root or shoot system of a plant bends in response to a one-directional stimulus, that is what we call tropism. It is a result of different rates of growth response made, and it may be referred to as growth curvature because the plant, the shoot system or the root system is actually bending. That is why we call it growth curvature, because there is a curving, bending towards the side or the other side. And the example of tropism, we have phototropism. That is response or bending of the plant to a unidirectional light, including the sun. So that is phototropism. Then geotropism, when the organism or the plant responds to the force of gravity, that is geotropism. Hydrotropism is the unidirectional bending towards water source. That's hydrotropism. Then chemotropism, unidirectional response to a concentration of chemical substance, chemotropism. Then autotropism or stigmotropism, that is the response to localized contact, as in tendrils of climbing plants. There is a plant called Tephleria. The Igbo people call it ugu, your pumpkin leaf. If you see this plant, or even our yam, those two have tendrils, you discover that when these two plants are planted and you don't put a stick beside them, they may decide to crawl and the plants will not do well. But by the time you put a stalk or a tree or there's something the plant can climb up to, you discover that it begins to rise and it begins to move, to coil itself around an object that is beside it. That is what is called autotropism or stigmotropism. Then we have thermotropism. This is a response to its source. That's thermo, it. So thermotropism is a unidirectional response to it. Then galvanotropism, response to electric current, while geotropism is response to water current. Then what are the significance of tropic movements? What effect does it have? The first one there is that the geotropic response to roots ensures that the plant grows downward. That's the gravitational, the gravitational force. Everything is coming down. There is nothing that can stand in space. So that geotropic response makes the root to keep going down into the soil, which helps the root to be firmly anchored in the soil. So that's a positive one there. Then the hydrotrophic response now, the roots at the same time tap new regions in the soil for water and mineral salts. That's hydrotropism. It keeps going into the soil, picking water so that the plants can grow well. Another significance is that the shoots, as a result of phototropic and geotropic response, subtend their leaves so that they will receive as much light as possible for response. Now, when there is light, the sun is shining, the leaves of the plants respond. That's phototropism. Then geotropism, the gravitational response now, so that they receive enough light for photosynthesis to occur, and photosynthesis will eventually lead to growth. Now, to the third type of response, we have the nasticism or nastic movement. Nastic movement is a movement made by a fixed part of the plant in response to a non-directional or diffuse stimulus. Trophic movement is directional, is a unidirectional movement, while nastic movement is a non-directional or diffuse stimulus. The direction of movement is always related to nature, that is, the plant is not moving to any direction of the source. And the type of this stimulus include photonasty. Also note that in elastic movement, the organism is responding to the nature of the organ, not to the stimulus. Unlike in phototropism, when there is light, the plant is bending towards the light. No, this one is not responding to the stimulus. Rather, it is related to the nature, responding to the organ. Photonasty is response to changing day and night condition. It's a general, it's not a unidirectional event that happen. Night and day condition. Then hydronasty. Hydronasty is response to humidity change. For instance, the weather is getting dried, water is no more in the atmosphere. It's a general thing that happens to the plant. It's not a one-directional response. Then chemonasty is response to presence of specific chemical substance. Thermonasty is response to change in the temperature or the heat. Heat has to do with thermo. So change in temperature or heat is the response to change in temperature or heat is thermonasty. While aptonasty or tigmonasty is response to touch, as they have in a plant called Mimosa pudica, that's sensitive plant. So that's tigmonasty. Then seismonasty is response to shock. When something unexpected happens and the plant is responding to that shock, is what is called seismonasty. So the examples of nastic movements include the daily opening and closing of certain flowers and leaves due to changes in temperature, humidity, light intensity, or when touched. For instance, when you touch Mimosa pudica, the sensitive plant, it closes its leaves for a while until it doesn't feel that touch again before it opens again. Then also, I said stomata opens in the day and closes at night. That's also another response to change in atmosphere. Another example, the sensitive plant, Mimosa pudica, rapidly closes the leaflets upward and the petiole drop in response to touch. That's an example of nastic movement. Then another one is that there is a nastic movement due to changes in temperature and light intensity. It causes hibiscus flower, for example, to open in the day and close at night. So that's also a nastic movement. It's not a unidirectional thing. It's the response of the organ. For instance, in Mimosa pudica is the plant that is the organ that is responding to the change, while in the hibiscus flower is the flower that is responding to the opening and closing. Now, talking about the differences between the trophic and the nastic movements. We want to compare the differences between trophic and nastic movements. In trophic movements, the movement is usually not easily reversible. It's not easily reversible. But in nastic movement, the movement is reversible when there is a change in that thing. For instance, the leaf opens in the day, then at night it closes. It opens again tomorrow. So the movement is usually reversible, but in trophic movement is not easily reversible. Then response in trophic movement leads to growth, while response of nastic movement does not lead to growth. Whether closing or opening of stomata does not affect growth, but when a plant responds to light, it will be able to undergo photosynthesis, thereby growth will occur. So trophic movement leads to growth, while nastic movement don't lead to growth. Then in trophic movement, there is directional growth movement of plant part. The plant part moves, but in nastic movement, there is no directional movement of plant part. There is no part of the plant that is moving. But in trophic movement, the plant part has to move in response to or against the irritability or the change that is occurring. Trophic movement is slow. It's a slow response, while the response in nastic movement is very rapid. Then stimulus in trophic movement is unidirectional, that is towards the stimulus. But in nastic movements, the response is general or diffuse. is not towards any part, but rather is directional to the organ, not to the response. Then in trophic movement, the whole organism moves, while gymnastic movement is a part of the organism that moves, not the whole organism. Then in trophic movement, movement is not due to changes in cell turbo, but for gymnastic movement, movement is due to changes in cell turbo. Trophic movement is found in animals and in some plants, but gymnastic movement is found only in plants. Example, mimosa. When you touch mimosa pudica, it closes. The plant opens and closes. So gymnastic movement is found only in plants, while trophic movement is found both in plants and in some animals. Now we are moving to the last characteristics or property of cell that we'll be considering under this topic, which is movement. We have considered growth and development. Then we have also considered irritability or response of organism. Now we want to talk about movement. Movement is the ability of a living organism to move either as a whole or in parts in search of food, escape, or defense, or response to stimuli, or for the sake of reproduction. Organism moves for various reasons. So, and the reasons could be to search for food, to escape from danger, for the sake of reproduction, or in response to stimuli, like we have just considered. Then another type of movement that occurs in organism is the movement of metabolic waste. When organisms undergo metabolic activity, it results in some metabolic waste. For instance, when digestion takes place, you have metabolic waste that is